Nominees for Best Picture this week is the movie Tar. How many of you might have seen that yet? Anybody? Oh my goodness, you got to see it. It's a good one. Lydia Tar is the title character. She's played by Cate Blanchett, and she is the conductor of a world-famous orchestra. And when she describes the power of music, my goodness, she inspired me to understand and appreciate music in a new way. She is articulate and eloquent, and when she conducts the orchestra, the music just elevates you, just lifts you up to another realm. Her mastery of music inspires. And yet, Lydia is cruel. She's very unkind. Her words are so harsh that she just devastates the lives of the people that she interacts with in a personal way. Because of the way that she treats people, the sound of her life is like this dissonant clash. Lydia seems to have this eloquence and this elegance about her, this artistry and beauty and talent in abundance. She lacks just one thing: love. Lydia Tar seems to be a modern parable, and she embodies really the words of St. Paul in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, when he says, "If I speak in the tongues of mortals and angels, but have not love, I'm just a noisy gong, a clanging cymbal." She indeed spoke the languages of angels in her music, but her life is this noisy gong, a clanging cymbal, because she is lacking in love. And I hope you experience love. I hope you experience that here in this place, because, oh my goodness, if you've missed the experience of love, that's like you've missed the best part. What's the rest of it for? And I know preachers that remind me of Lydia Tar. They're eloquent and they're powerful and they're passionate and they're loud, but they are also profoundly unkind. The first letter of John, chapter 4, verse 8, makes this statement very simple and concise and beautiful and true. God is love. Three parts of a sentence. God, love, being. God equals love. Love equals God. Where you have one, you have the other. And the Beatitudes also are very concise and simple and beautiful and true, but I might add that they are also kind of counterintuitive. The Beatitudes present this beautiful vision. The word beatitude is about that, this beautiful vision of true greatness in the reign of God. And it leads us through some twists and turns that can seem kind of counterintuitive. How can poverty be a blessing? Why would grief be a blessing? But they all lead us back to that central message of the Scriptures that God is love. Love is God. Jesus begins by saying, "Blessed are the poor, those who are poor in spirit." And I love Eugene Peterson's translation of this in the Bible called The Message. Eugene Peterson translates that first line of the Beatitudes as this: "Blessed are you when you're at the end of your rope, because when there's less of you, there's more of God." It's hard to be a mom working at a Burger King, watching over her son doing homework in one of the restaurant booths. And she's struggling to get by. But my goodness, that is love. And where there is love, God is found. Wealth cannot substitute for that kind of love between a mom and a son, and the love that they share is indeed something sacred and holy is revealed. Blessed are those who mourn. In other words, blessed are you when you have lost what is most dear to you in all the world, because it means that you found a love that was so sacred, so powerful that it hurts like hell to lose it. And even when it doesn't feel good, It is such a blessing. Yes, blessed are you when you're mourning, and we hold you in our hearts today. It's precisely sometimes when I have felt that kind of pain and that kind of loss. It might take a while, but it always leads me right back to the embrace of the Eternal One who upholds me and sustains me. And perhaps you've felt that kind of pain too. And if you have, if you mourn, you know what a painful blessing that can really be. You know what I'm talking about. Blessed are the meek and gentle, Jesus said. In other words, you are blessed when you are content with just who you are. No more, no less. That's when you discover that actually you are the proud owners of the greatest treasure in all the world, all that can't be bought, all that you can't leave behind, the kind of love that fills your soul and leads you to another place. Blessed are you who hunger and thirst for justice. This week we saw images, indelible images that we can never forget of what injustice looks like. In Tyree Nichols, beaten to death by the police in Memphis, and we hear it echoed over and over. Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, the lives of so many whose blood still cries from the ground and it runs like a river to the sea. And it tells us when we hunger and we thirst for justice, when we proclaim Black Lives Matter, we do so because we thirst for justice. We are hungry for God's righteousness. Blessed are those who show mercy, because that's something every single one of us needs. And so we need to show patience and tolerance and kindness to others. We don't know what wounds they may be carrying deep inside. So let's be merciful, patient. You might need that someday too, that kind of mercy. Blessed are the pure of heart, Jesus says. When mindfulness leads us back to that beautiful vision, when our purity of heart and our focus leads us to that simple, clear vision that Jesus presents here in the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are you, holy are you, happy are you, the pure of heart who intentionally cultivate gratitude and growth and love with all of your heart and soul and mind and strength, love of God and love of one another. Blessed are you who work for peace. And I asked you this morning, does anyone still have a paper you wanted to turn in with your ideas? I asked you this simple question at the beginning of the service. Jesus said, blessed are those who work for peace. So I ask you to write the name of someone, living or dead, whom you admire because they are a peacemaker. And 1, 2, 3, 4 of you wrote to Martin Luther King Jr. Amen to that. Someone who is a peacemaker. Other names that you've written down, Lenore Harris, amen. She was a peacemaker. Betty Gifford. Lots of teachers. Dolly Parton, Maya Angelou, Sean Penn, Martin Luther King, and the many singers who are at special concerts to help raise awareness and bring in finances for worthy causes. The late John Lewis. I better get my glasses. Sorry about that. Now that I'm officially an old man at age 62 here. Grand Mimi, Nana, Papa, and Mom and Dad. My husband, Jerry. And I would say my wife, Katie. Melvin Pay. Marilyn, I know you're still grieving the loss of your husband after all those years. We hold you in prayer today. Kathy Smith is a peacemaker. Joe Biden, my mom, Eileen, my mother-in-law, Joni, Nelson Mandela, Pope Francis, Carol Williams, Mother Teresa, Eleanor Roosevelt, David Pastor, and Pastor John. Thank you. I'm just reading what you wrote here. Mother Teresa, Jimmy Carter, my husband Carlo, who defaults to thinking well of others, Mary Glazer, Greta Thunberg, my mom, Evie Novak, is a peacemaker. And I'm going to check my cell phone here. I know some of you have joined remotely and are sharing your, okay, actually didn't get any, but I did get a reminder that Jonathan Cook's birthday is tomorrow. So let's celebrate with Jonathan Cook. These are the names that come to mind when we think of those peacemakers, those whom we admire, because they embody the Beatitudes that Jesus gave us. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted because they struggle and work for justice. Yes, blessed are you when you get into that good trouble, because that is all part of the beautiful vision, even the heartbreaking sadness of it, because all of those saints and prophets and martyrs are part of the beautiful vision too, and all that they have given up for that. Yes, God is love, and if love is the vision, then the Beatitudes are the objectives, if you will. If God is love and love is God, the two cannot be separated. Now, there are some metaphors that work for others and don't work for other people. Some people work for what doesn't work. There's a metaphor that I really like. Maybe this will work for you, maybe it won't. If it does, good. If it doesn't, just forgive me and we'll move on to the next sermon some other time, okay? But there's this idea called quantum entanglement. Have you ever heard of this? It's an aspect, yes, all right, of astrophysics and particle physics. And so again, this might work for you, might not. It's an established phenomenon. It's well known and documented, but it is a complete puzzle. They have no idea what's going on. Here's what's going on. Quantum entanglement occurs when it occurs around us all the time, actually, when two particles are emitted in a quantum event, and they are linked together. They are always one. So one is spinning one way, and the other is spinning the other way. Okay? And here's the thing: you can change the spin of one, and when you change the spin of that one, you simultaneously change the spin of the other. So far, pretty basic, all right? Two things are paired, changes one, changes the other. But where it gets really weird is this: no matter what the distance is, they are always linked. If you change one, the other changes instantaneously, even if they are light years apart, even if they are on opposite sides of the galaxy. So here's the conundrum, okay? One of two things must be going on. Einstein thought this was so weird, he called it spooky. Okay? Although these entangled particles are physically distant from each other, they are still able to share information with each other instantaneously. So, one of two things is going on. Either they're transmitting information faster than the speed of light, which would break all kinds of laws of physics and cause us to rewrite everything, or in some other dimension that we don't know about, the two particles are actually still side by side, even though in our dimensions they appear to be distant. Either way, it is really messed up. That is weird. It is so weird. And yet, it's proven it happens all the time. The two particles are always linked, inextricably and forever, despite any appearance to the contrary. God is love. Love is God. The two are inextricably linked together, and sometimes in ways that go beyond any of our abilities to comprehend. Lydia Tarr experienced that when her beautiful music clashes with her spiteful actions. St. John recognized it when he said you can't love God and hate people. St. Paul recognized it when he said if you do great things but you don't love, then you're just a noisy gong and it doesn't mean anything. God is the one in whom we live and move and have our being. And I certainly don't have God all figured out. If you do, please let me know, all right? But Everything that I have experienced about people, about spirituality, about the universe points to this. God and love are inseparable. The German theologian Dorothy Solle says that it is not possible to tear God and love apart and say that like God is permanent and primary, but love is secondary, this derivative thing. No, she says God serves as the power, the spark that animates that love. So if love is the goal, let's make the Beatitudes our objectives and the way we choose to live, the GPS that guides us to where we want to go, lest love seem like some unattainable goal. The prophet Micah put it very beautifully and concisely. What does God ask? This: do justice, love mercy, walk humbly. This is what God requires. We can all disagree about religion. We have different beliefs. There may be atheists, agnostics, or devout believers here. You're all welcome. Glad you're here. But I think no matter how differently we may believe different things or understand our experiences of God in different ways, I think that we can all agree on this. The most sublime, the most sacred, the most God-like thing that any of us could ever aspire to is to love and therein discover something of the reflection of the very face of God. I've worshiped in Buddhist temples and Sikh temples and Hindu temples and Jain temples. I've worshiped in mosques and synagogues and St. Peter's Basilica in Jerusalem and football stadiums and forests and mountains and picnic tables and cemeteries. But all of these sacred places of prayer have all pointed me just right back to the Beatitudes. Back to the Beatitudes. Discover the blessing. Let's discover that beautiful vision that we uphold, even in poverty, even in grief, gentleness and thirst for justice, in mercy and purity of heart, in the work for peace. Blessed are you. Holy are you. Rejoice and be glad, for yours is the reign of God.